2,500 tons, 4 submarine engines, a top speed of 10 kilometers per hour, and a gun so loud it would permanently deafen its own crew. Welcome to the bunker. I'm Professor von Blunder, and today we're examining one of the greatest acts of military engineering genius in human history, Hitler's P-1500 monster, a tank so catastrophically impractical it would have destroyed the very ground it stood on. Picture this. It's 1942. The Nazis are losing on multiple fronts. Resources are scarce. Morale is collapsing. So naturally, the High Command decides the solution is to build a 2,500-ton self-propelled gun that requires over 100 crew members, fires once every 15 minutes, and moves slower than a jogger with a broken ankle. The concept was simple, really. Take a railway gun designed to obliterate fortified bunkers from 38 kilometers away, rip it off its tracks, and mount it on a tank chassis powered by 4 engines stolen from U-boats. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, absolutely everything. The monster couldn't cross bridges, it couldn't drive on roads without pulverizing them into gravel. It couldn't even fire without an elaborate system of hydraulic dampeners, stabilizer jacks, and a small army of support staff. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to talk about the engine. The P-1500 monster was designed to be powered by 2 to 4 U-boat engines, specifically the MAN M9V40 over 46 6-cylinder diesel, the workhorse of the German submarine fleet. Each of these magnificent beasts was 6 meters long, 2 meters wide, and produced 2,200 horsepower. In U-boats, 2 of these engines were used, one to power the vessel, the other to charge the batteries. For the monster, the engineers decided they needed 4 entire submarine engines just to get this metal monstrosity moving. And even with all that power, the monster would have only managed a blistering top speed of 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. In engineering terms, that means the monster was essentially a self-digging grave on treads. Imagine a tank the size of a shopping mall, powered by 4 engines ripped out of submarines, moving at the speed of a very motivated snail. Now, what would you do if you had 4 submarine engines and an unlimited budget? Because the Nazis decided to strap them to a 2,500-ton metal coffin. But the engines were only the beginning of the problem. The monster's treads would have been even wider than those on the Ratte, possibly 4 or 5 treads per side each, 1.2 meters wide. Why? Because anything less and the sheer weight of the vehicle would have caused it to sink into the ground like an immense shovel head, compressing dirt until the monster was sitting in a pit several meters deep. And if you thought dirt was bad, try pavement. The monster's weight distribution would have functioned like a whole press gang of men with pickaxes, pulverizing roads into rubble as it passed. Bridges? Forget about it. Unless the monster's commanders wanted to do a lot of collateral damage and slide into a river or gorge, they would have to find another route. Every route, forever. The monster was, in essence, a slow-motion geological disaster with a gun on top. Speaking of which, let's talk about that gun. At the heart of the monster was Krupp's artillery masterpiece, the 800mm Dora K, capable of lobbing 7-ton shells 38 kilometers. 2 of these railway guns were actually built, the Dora and the Schwerer Gustav, and both saw very limited service. The Schwerer Gustav participated in the siege of Sevastopol in June 1942. After days of successful shelling, it was ordered to target a subterranean ammunition bunker buried beneath Severnaya Bay, designed to be invulnerable to conventional shelling. The Schwerer Gustav fired 9 shells at the aim point. All 9 plunged into the bay through 30 meters of sediment and into the armored bunker. The ammunition stockpile detonated. The bunker was completely destroyed. Oh, and an unfortunate merchant vessel in the bay was also obliterated by a shell passing directly through it. Collateral damage. Whoops! But here's the kicker. For a weapon as immense as the Schwerer Gustav, a 9-round volley could occupy an entire day. At its peak, the gun fired 14 rounds in a single day, with an exhausting rate of fire of only 1 round every 15 minutes. Think of it like organizing a music festival, except instead of a stage, you have a gun that weighs as much as a warship. And instead of fans, you have 100 sweaty men trying not to go deaf. The railway versions required special cranes to lower shells onto a powered cart, which then assisted loaders manhandling the shells into the breach. These guns were served by a crew of more than 500 men. The monster, being mobile, could do away with some positions, but the crew would still have numbered over 100. In tactical terms, that means every shot required a small city's worth of support staff and enough logistics to invade a medium-sized country. Imagine being one of those 100 crew members. You wake up, eat breakfast from a field kitchen, and spend your entire day loading one shell the size of a Volkswagen. When the monster moved into a firing position, an entire encampment would have been erected, complete with field kitchens, latrines, anti-aircraft vehicles, tanks, infantry maintenance crews, ammunition trucks carrying 1 round each, and huge fuel bowsers. The monster wasn't just a tank, it was a traveling circus of catastrophic inefficiency. Now you might be thinking, Professor, surely they figured out how to actually fire this thing, right? Well, yes and no. The monster was technically mobile, but firing on the move would have been catastrophic. The railway versions of the 800mm gun required 2 parallel rail tracks that had to be specially reinforced. Firing on normal rail lines would have splintered the metal rails like dry timbers. Firing the gun mounted on the monster without preparing and bracing the vehicle would have had a similarly disastrous effect on the tank itself. Nearly all large railway guns employed huge hydraulic dampeners to compensate for recoil. Because the monster couldn't rely on recoil movement on rails to supplement these dampeners, the tank-mounted version would have required much more in the way of recoil compensation. This might have included stabilizer jacks or booms extended from the side of the vehicle, a sliding gun carriage, and a hydro-pneumatic counter-recoil mechanism. Imagine the huge cannon sitting atop a slide mechanism, like you see on an automatic pistol. When it fired one of its bouncing baby boys, the whole gun platform would slide back several feet and then get returned to its firing position by hydraulic rams. In military engineering terms, that means the gun recoiled so violently it needed a theme park's worth of safety mechanisms just to avoid launching itself into the next postal code. Now, if you were a German engineer in 1942 and your boss asked you to mount a railway gun on a tank, what would you say? Because these guys said, "Yeah, sounds good," and then spent the next year trying to invent a recoil dampener the size of a school bus. Of course, since the monster was never actually built, I had to test the concept myself. I ordered Private Timmy to demonstrate the firing mechanism using our scale model here in the bunker. Test 1, Timmy fired the model. The recoil broke his wrist. Test 2, we added stabilizer jacks. They snapped like breadsticks. Test 3, we added hydraulic dampeners. Timmy went deaf, and we lost him in a cloud of hydraulic fluid. If things went well, the gun would be ready to deliver another round inside 10 minutes. Once the Germans had all that taken care of, all they had to do was develop an intercom system that would display text for the stone-deaf gun team. Timmy still can't hear me. I think that's a good sign. All right, let's bring out the stupidity meter and rate this glorious disaster. Money wasted, 4 U-boat engines, over 100 crew members, a gun that required its own traveling city, and enough research and development costs to fund a small nation. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. Enemies killed, 0. The monster was never built, so it never killed a single enemy. However, it did kill countless hours of engineering time and probably a few careers. 0 out of 10. Collateral damage to Timmy. Timmy is stone deaf, covered in hydraulic fluid, nursing a broken wrist, and I'm pretty sure he's developed a permanent twitch. 10 out of 10. Overall stupidity score, 11 out of 10, because much like the monster would have broken every bridge in Europe, this design broke the very concept of practicality. The P-1500 monster was a weapon so impractical, so absurdly over-engineered, and so hilariously doomed to failure that even the Nazis looked at the blueprints and said, maybe not. And that's saying something. So here's my question for you. If you had unlimited resources in 1944, what hilariously impractical weapon would you design? A tank with jet engines? A submarine with wings? A battleship on roller skates? Let me know in the comments. And someone check on Timmy. I think he's still leaking hydraulic fluid and can't hear me asking if he's okay.